How's it, everyone? Welcome to another string review right here on OpenCourt. I'm Kent, and today I'm testing an update to a string that was very highly recommended to me, and it is also by a brand that is growing in popularity. That brand is Toroline. So today we're taking a look at the Toroline O-Toro Tour. Let's check it out. So the original O-Toro was highly recommended to me by a few of my hitting partners. One of them is actually sponsored by Toroline, so he got me a set of the O-Toro. So thank you, Jeff. And this tour is supposed to play a little bit different. The O-Toro I didn't like as much as Caviar. The O-Toro actually felt a bit stiffer, but for some reason I got better control, especially on my aggressive forehands with the Caviar. The Caviar kind of cushions the ball, but it also saps a little bit of energy away from it, I think, and it keeps the ball in play. The O-Toro plays a little bit firmer, which I do like the feeling of O-Toro. It was a very close contest, but I think the Caviar edges it out just a bit. But this new tour version of the O-Toro is supposed to play a little bit crisper and a little bit more firm, so it's supposed to be more durable and maintain tension a little bit better. That's what the O-Toro website said. Former ATP pro Steve Johnson has collaborated with Toroline to help create the original O-Toro, and he has been working to improve it with this O-Toro Tour. So the O-Toro Tour, as of now, only comes in one gauge, the 17 gauge 1.23 millimeter. It comes in a nice neon mint color, and it is hexagonal, six-sided, which, you know, I like shaped strings. They tend to grip the ball and provide a little bit better spin potential to get the ball to dive down towards the tail end of the shot, which I need, especially for my aggressive returns and approach shots when I'm stepping inside the baseline and I take a big rip. That six-sided or those shaped polys tend to bring the ball down, which I need to keep my aggressive shots in play. And like I said earlier, O-Toro Tour, apparently according to the Toroline website, has a 15% increase in stiffness for more control, durability, and tension maintenance. Durability and tension maintenance doesn't really matter to me, although I don't like strings where the tension drops off after just the first play session. The O-Toro original had a somewhat of a break-in period. It felt pretty boardy at the beginning. I do think that the tour will also have a break-in period because this is supposed to be a little bit stiffer than the original. By the way, I just looked at Toroline's website and I did find a pretty interesting string, which is the O-Toro Snap, which is supposed to be a very slick round version of the O-Toro. So if I like this tour, I may think about doing a hybrid experiment review of the O-Toro Tour in the mains and the O-Toro Snap in the crosses. Let me know if you guys are interested in watching that because I do like testing a lot of different hybrids. So I got the O-Toro Tour in my Boom Pro. It's a neon mint color, so obviously I had to string it in my teal Boom, and it looks very nice in this racket. So this is the 123 millimeter, and I got it strung at 54 pounds, which is my normal reference tension whenever I use a 16-19 string pattern. I'm very excited to get this out on the court because I did really like O-Toro original. Let's see if this tour plays more to my liking than the Caviar. So let's get out on the court and let's test out the O-Toro Tour. But before that, if you guys like this content and want to see more, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button to keep the reviews coming. So let's start with the pros of the Toroline O-Toro Tour. I will say this right off the bat. I do think I played better with the O-Toro Tour than the O-Toro original. It does feel a bit stiffer and thus seem to have more directional control. Thankfully, it isn't a stiff and dead string like RPM, and I was still able to get good pop on serves, volleys, and ground strokes. Likewise, I was also able to get good touch and feel as well as pocketing in my front court game. But let's touch on that stiffness. If you have a sensitive elbow, I suggest you stay away because the O-Toro Tour is quite stiff, especially when fresh off the stringer. Once the strings break in, the O-Toro Tour strikes a near perfect balance of pocketing and stiffness. When I strike the ball clean, I can feel the ball sitting on the strings for a split second, and I can direct the ball where I want it to go. I can hit deep and push my opponents around, but also be able to hit short angles or corners to force defensive shots. I was able to stay on the gas and continue to be the aggressor in a rally, which is what I like. I also got good height control and I could hit low over the net when the need arose in doubles, but I could also aim high and get the ball to land a foot in front of the baseline. This is the perfect type of control string, something that is not too stiff and dead but also has decent feel from the dwell time and allows me to strike the ball confidently. The feel from the baseline was very similar to my favorite poly, the Lynx Tour. That is pretty high praise from me. Another similarity to the Lynx Tour besides the feel and pocketing was the pop and power level. Like I mentioned earlier, this isn't a dead string, and if I struck the center, I got a decent amount of pace and court penetration. This was especially helpful on my two-handed backhand and serves. When I took the ball early on returns on my backhand, I could redirect the momentum of my opponent's serve and hit a deep, powerful shot. I also really liked squaring up during a rally and driving through my backhands with my hips. The long cross-court backhand over the lowest part of the net was an extremely useful shot with the O-Toro Tour. I also got good pop on my flat serve. For a stiffer string, I could deliver my flat serves with decent pace and good net clearance, and I felt comfortable going for flat serves even when I was down in my service game. The stiffness also gave me good command when aiming my flat serve. Softer strings tend to get good power, but I have a hard time hitting near the service line because they're so springy. Another great aspect of the O-Toro Tour, and something that contributed to the control and command I felt on all my shots, was the spin potential. This string really grips the ball and I could really feel it at impact because the ball sits and digs into the string bed. My topspin forehands were diving down inside the lines consistently, and although I tend to hit more flat, I like to see the last second dip toward the tail end of my forehands, and I was getting that consistently with the O-Toro Tour. Picking up low forehands was also a breeze, and I could get the ball to start dipping right as it crossed the net. This was helpful in doubles because it kept the opposing net person from hitting an easy poach volley. Slices also felt awesome because I could feel the string sliding as I pushed through the point of contact. This resulted in a low gliding slice, and I could even use the slice on offense. Slicing deep into the corner to approach the net was a viable strategy with this string. But because this string is stiff, you have to really accelerate through your slice, otherwise you'll probably end up in the net. But if you have good head speed, whether you're a slicer or more of a vertical swinger, you will enjoy this string if you rely on spin. But the area where I judge spin potential most is on the kick serve, and boy was my kick serve awesome with the O-Toro Tour. My kick serve was bouncing so high that I could see my opponents noticeably having to adjust their swing after seeing the ball bounce. I found great success with my kick serve when serving from the ad court. I was able to get my kick serve to dive down onto the singles line and bounce outside the court. My opponent would have to jump outside the doubles alley and occasionally even ended up nearing the side fence. This was incredibly satisfying and mitigated one of the weaknesses with my kick serve from the ad court. If I don't get enough kick on the ad side, it opens up the doubles alley for my partner to get passed down the line. This basically never happened when I served with the O-Toro Tour. I use my kick serve about 80% of the time on my second serve, and I never felt like I would be in trouble with this serve. The O-Toro Tour also gets good touch and feel at net. I am primarily a serve and volleyer, and I like the crisp and responsive strings because I like to use crafty and deceptive drop shots and angles to bewilder my opponent. This string gave me the necessary touch to hit my drop shots that died inside the service box. One thing about stiff and dead strings is that I have to push through the drop shot more to get it over the net, and it's sometimes difficult to gauge my strength when the strings give me no feel. But the O-Toro Tour is fairly lively for a stiff string, so all I really had to do was place the racket in the path of the ball, firm up my grip, and let it bounce off the strings. For angles, it's a little easier because it's more about timing. I just deflect the ball off by rotating my wrist. But overall at net, I felt confident in my volleys and I could aim into the gaps of the opposing defense with ease, and my volleys had good pace on them, which is one trait I like about softer strings without the loss of control. Overall, the O-Toro Tour is a fairly crisp string. It's not as crisp as Head Lynx Tour, but it provides much of the same benefits as Lynx Tour. They both have decent pocketing and power for a stiff string, and I can aim for smaller targets with confidence, which is the most important factor for me when judging strings. The Tour version felt more responsive than the O-Toro original, and I'm definitely curious to try this string in a future hybrid. So now let's get into the cons of the Toroline O-Toro Tour. I honestly don't have any lingering issues with this string. I thoroughly enjoyed playing with it, and it allowed me to play my aggressive first strike style from the baseline and my crafty deceptive style at net seamlessly. As I mentioned before in the pros section, this string has great feel to attack the ball as well as cradle the ball for touch and finesse shots. However, that only comes after the first hour or so, and that is my only gripe with this string. it has a long break-in period. I saw this coming because original O-Toro as well as Caviar both had a break-in period, and the website said the Tour is stiffer, so naturally I expected to break this in. But freshly strung, the O-Toro Tour is as boardy as they come. It felt up there with 𝐦𝐨𝐵𝐞 Confidential in terms of boardy feel, but thankfully, unlike Confidential, the string does not stay boardy throughout its life. Once the strings settle in and the playability opens up, the string gave me everything I needed as mentioned before, but that beginning period is rough. I recommend hitting against the wall or getting a nice long warm-up before taking this string into competitive play. I played a league match with this string when it was fresh and I could not get any feel for my shots at all. The string also felt powerless before the tension dropped slightly. Speaking of tension, unfortunately I don't feel I can give an accurate measure of just how durable and tension stable the O-Toro Tour is, because honestly I don't care about those two categories. The O-Toro Tour is marked as being stiffer, more durable, and maintaining tension better than the original, so I wish I had a more concrete answer. But as far as stiffness, the Tour is definitely stiffer, and although I like stiff strings, if you have sensitive joints, it isn't for the faint of arm health. If I were to use this string again, I would definitely warm up with it before going into a match. I would probably drop the tension by 2 pounds as well, because this string is stiff and control oriented enough to not become too springy at 52 pounds. I also definitely want to try this as a main in a hybrid setup. So, who is the Toroline O-Toro Tour for? It's for players with aggressive all-court games who prioritize feel and control over something that is muted and dead. If you like O-Toro but want something stiffer, this string is for you. I also feel like the Tour got a bit more spin than the original. It's a difficult contest between O-Toro Tour and Caviar because Caviar lets the ball sink into the strings more, and I think Caviar is better for flatter hitters. But the O-Toro Tour is more feel oriented overall, so I think for me, the O-Toro Tour slightly edges out the Caviar as my current favorite Toroline string. I'm still new to the brand, so I have many more strings to try, but so far so good. Next up is trying O-Toro Tour as a main with O-Toro Snap in the crosses for a hybrid playtest. So now let me hear from you guys down in the comments. Have you tried the O-Toro Tour? What did you think about it compared to the original? If you guys are interested in trying this string, use the link in my description so you can get an awesome discount. That greatly supports the channel, and I'll see you on the next review. Thank you for watching this review of the Toroline O-Toro Tour right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.